The Hall of Famer Tim Brando joins us to discuss the Nico situation at Tennessee. We talk Alabama, Kalen DeBoer's future, and give you a Masters update that you don't want to miss. All that and more on the Friday edition of Crain & Company. Welcome to the Friday edition of Crain & Company. Who else better to join us than the Hall of Famer, the legend himself? It's been a minute, but we got him back. Tim Brando, Timmy B, what is up, buddy?
Hey,
yeah.
Timmy, welcome.
The human landfill, the constant run-on sentence guy. It's me. I'm back. And those on the internet that were wondering, there was never a rift between Jake and me. We're good.
Fake news.
What? I bought into that.
Yeah, we're on past the Cincinnati and the playoff debacle. It's like that old adage to be like, most of my friends growing up, we had gotten in fights to start out and didn't like each other, and then became great friends. It's kind of funny how it worked out.
My favorite part of that whole thing was right after it, though. Tim smiled when we were off the air. Tim smiled and said, "Thanks for having me, guys. Let me know when you want me to come back on."
I was like, good. Thank God.
Like, I love this guy.
Yeah, no, he's the best. Timmy B, I want to start. There's obviously a lot going on. You know, the Masters, college football never stops. But something when I was on the press box with Mike Grace this morning, me and you were both on there at the same time, you brought up a great point about kind of, first off, I want you to talk about the calendar, how you think we need to kind of bump college football up and bump college basketball back. But then also the kind of lack of coverage post-Final Four about just how elite the games were, the matchups were, and how fantastic the tournament was overall.
Well, what are the chances that, and I've always felt this way, and again, it is a bit personal for me because my career jettisoned through college basketball first, football next, of course, and in concert with one another, they've been tremendous for me. So it is a little bit personal, but the greatest event and the most magical moment that I can ever recall was the 1982 Final Four, which was a year removed from my first one. In Philly when I was following Dale Brown's LSU Tigers, and they lost to Indiana. Indiana beat North Carolina in the championship. The next year when we all went to the Superdome, and I was a local sports talk host working a show from 6 to 8 every night in New Orleans. I was credentialed that time. And it's funny, I had this run of Final Fours that I was credentialed for by different companies that I was working for at the time, starting in 81. And I've only missed 4, including this year's, since then, okay? But in 82, as a 26-year-old reporter, credentialed to be on the floor of the Superdome with the biggest crowd ever for an NCAA Final Four, the semifinals, Georgetown, Houston, North Carolina, and Louisville. Those were, I mean, it was magical. And I just looked around and I said, my God, I can't imagine not being at this every year. The colors splashing through the Superdome. And this is not a basketball town, by the way. Okay. New Orleans is not a basketball town by any stretch. And the place was packed. So it is personal for me in a lot of ways. But what are the chances that you're going to have a 64 team field back then or 68 team field now where the games are as competitive as they are? And chalk did rain. We did have 4 number ones make it. That rarely happens. So I get some of that noteworthy factual information that made people take a certain narrative that I disagree with completely. But to have all those games that were such struggles for the teams that were favored, that were 1 seeds to even get to the Final Four, and then have 2 incredible games, both competitive until really the last inside of a minute of the game, you did not know who was going to win, and then have a championship game go the way it did. Now, I know it wasn't aesthetically clean to have a game end the way it did, perhaps offensively to go along with great defense from Florida. But my God, to have 3 competitive games in that setting, usually if you're in a Final Four, guys, if you get 2 dogs on Saturday, you're probably going to get a great championship. And if you have 2 unbelievable games on Saturday, then you might get a dog national title game. This time it was, I've never seen anything in my lifetime that was as great as that. Okay. And I couldn't make it there for personal reasons this year, but it killed me to not be there because San Antonio is a great Final Four town too.
It is.
The Riverwalk. I mean, you walk from the hotel to the arena. I mean, it's awesome. And yet, what was the discussion about? The narrative was never about the games. It was never about, and the games were pretty incredible with a lot of, it was just, let's find something we don't like. Cinderella's dead. The chalk reigns. It's all so boring to me. Let's find something wrong with it. And we had incredible storylines, whether it was the Golden and Pearl relationship, the Kelvin Sampsons. I mean, my God, it was a sportscaster's dream. And yet, the narrative on it was minimal when it came to the games. And most of what was discussed was what was bad about college basketball.
Yeah.
I mean, the women's tournament this year tanked.
Yeah.
Those games were awful. You hear anybody screaming about how bad the women's tournament was? No. And you will never hear that. But boy, let's find something wrong with the men's, and we'll lampoon it even when the games are historically good.
Yeah. Well, Timmy B, to us, and we covered it. I mean, we went live even right after the national championship game at 11 o'clock at night and covered it all the way through from the first two rounds all the way through the national title game, and it was a blast.
Great work, by the way.
It was about so many people. I know it was. I mean, it really is kind of better for the content creators that did cover it because there were less places to go, and it obviously did really well. And we love it, and we love covering it. It's funny, when you're from Auburn, anytime you say anything about Alabama that's negative, it's just an instant. Oh, well, you just hate Alabama. In reality, I think we're harder on Auburn on this show than anybody. And my wife's an Alabama fan, so I got to watch what I say. But this year, year two of Kalen DeBoer, outside of being like a Nick Saban super figure like that, which is unbelievably rare, when you coach at a place like Alabama or LSU or Auburn or Tennessee or Ohio State, Michigan, you kind of feel you're a little bit on the hot seat, right? It still feels like Ryan Day was on the hot seat, last year. Like still is, it feels like. But going into year two, because I think as irrational as most diehard college football fans are, there is a rational group, especially the people that are making the decisions.
Right.
The year one, you're like, okay, new regime, we can kind of live with, you beat Georgia, you beat Auburn, you beat your rivals. With kind of the stuff we've heard on the periphery of guys, now I can't show up late to workouts, or just fear of Alabama seems to be dissipating of them as the big dog. Do you think Kalen DeBoer is actually on a hot seat if Alabama, and could possibly be fired if Alabama goes 8-4 and doesn't make the playoffs, or 9-3 and loses to Auburn and doesn't make the playoffs? Is there a reality in your mind outside of just a disaster like a 5-7, which I don't think is going to happen, where Alabama cuts bait and says, we made a mistake, we've got to go a different direction this year?
Not as long as Greg Byrne is athletic director. No. Greg is an old school AD with athletic director's pedigree. I knew his dad before I knew him. And Kalen DeBoer didn't just fall off a turnip truck when he got to Alabama. I mean, the guy's a hell of a coach. He really is. And he didn't have everything that he wanted to have in that quarterback room, especially from a coaching standpoint, a year ago. Now, some changes can be made, but here's the thing, and Alabama fans don't want to hear this either, but this is a grim reality, all right? When you've got to play more games to win a national title, and now you do, you're not going to get as many national titles as Nick did. The spoils of the work of the GOAT are going to be there for a long time, and it's not necessarily just because he was so much better at evaluating players and recruiting them and stockpiling them than today. Obviously, he didn't deal with the portal, but you only had to be one of 4 teams to get in. You only had to win 2 postseason games to win it all. Okay. And in many cases, he knew exactly what to do, whether it was a rematch game against LSU in 2013 or just whatever, or was that 11? Might have been, no, it was 13, I think. Any way you look at it, it was easier to do, easier to accomplish. Now, just getting there should be considered a really big deal, okay? But I don't think anyone in football looks at their programs when they get to the last four, even when we had four, the same way we did the basketball tournament with 364 or more teams, and only four get to the big dance. We still have those expectations. Alabama is the South's answer to Ohio State. The expectations are the same: win every game, win national championships, or we want you gone. But it's not going to happen with regularity any longer at Alabama. It's just not. The competition is too great, and the challenges are too plentiful once you get to the postseason. And that era, that run that Saban had will never be equaled, in my view. I mean, it will never be equaled. No one, not Alabama, not Ohio State, not Michigan, none of them. Okay, because we do have greater access, and we do have more potential matchups that can cause problems for teams that feel like they're on a championship track. So,
yeah, I agree. I mean, we've been saying that for 2 years.
But I don't think he gets fired as long as Greg Byrne is there, even if he didn't make the 12 teams. I know it's been fashionable now for many in the media to say if he doesn't make the playoff, he's not getting in. I don't believe that. Not as long as Greg Byrne is athletic director.
By the end of this episode, another family farm will have closed in the United States. Now, it's not our fault personally. That's just how it goes. But you can spring into action by subscribing to Good Ranchers today to make a positive impact and support American farms and ranches. Because for anything like us, you want to know that your dinner wasn't shipped from the other side of the planet. And now is the perfect time to check out the fantastic boxes at goodranchers.com. So here's the deal. Their meat's born, raised, and harvested right here in the good old US of A. And there's no antibiotics, no added hormones, no seed oils, just meat. Imagine that, one ingredient you can pronounce without having to have a chemistry degree. Now, these folks practically show off when it comes to transparency about where your food is coming from. All their meat is farm to table. No mysteries, meaning you're supporting American ranchers while serving food that won't make you question your life choices at 3 a.m. They even have Gulf of America shrimp. Yeah, you heard that right. It sounds even better. Because even the map is tired of imported meat and seafood. Now, we've eaten Good Ranchers for the past 3 years. We've made what you feel like every recipe possible, and it's always fantastic, regardless of the option. I mean, my wife has just found new ways to make great food.
Had bone-in ribeye the last 2 nights, actually. Which, thank you, Good Ranchers.
Yeah.
Thank y'all for helping feed my family.
Yeah. So make sure you spring into action and check out their promotion to give back to American family farms and ranching tradition while saving money on high-quality, locally sourced food. Because when you sign up, you'll get free bacon, ground beef, seed oil-free chicken nuggets, or wild-caught salmon in every order for a year. Plus $40 off, but you got to use the code BOOSTER. So unless you want mystery meat, visit goodranchers.com today, use code BOOSTER, get that free meat for a year and $40 off your first order when you use code BOOSTER. Good Ranchers, American meat delivered.
Tim, let's talk college football, and I want to start with Tennessee quarterback Nico Iamaleava. Reports have surfaced that there are some contract disputes between Nico and Tennessee football. Now, Nico's father came out and said that this is inaccurate, but it seems to me this is always the natural conclusion of where name, image, and likeness as pay-for-play was going to take us. I would like your true fashion, unfiltered Timmy B thoughts on this, and maybe with respects to the NCAA versus House case that is sort of coming along and wrapping up.
Well, that it's to me it's laughable, but at the same time, players are going to do this, David, as long as there are no guardrails. This is just an example of why it was incumbent upon Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti, the leaders of the Big Ten and the SEC, and the other Power Four conference commissioners, Yormark and Phillips, to get up to the Capitol immediately after the Final Four and start saying, "Hey, we gotta get this done. We need some help from you guys," because what didn't seem to be feasible at all, and people love to throw dirt on Congress dealing with any issue in sports, saying, "Oh, hey, don't they have something more important to do?" You know, our society tends to look down its nose at sports all the time. Let's be society's whipping boy, okay? We don't do it with the creative arts, okay? We don't do it with the drama department, but we sure as hell do it with sports. But we do have a really good chance now with some of the bills that are being discussed in a bipartisan way, by the way. There are some Democrats, not many, but there are some Democrats that feel similarly to those that on the Republican side that believe that we've got to establish some sanity to what's transpiring now in intercollegiate athletics. With the House, the Senate, and the executive branch being all red, I think there is a chance we could see something done on their end. Okay. Now, are they working to serve themselves and the commissioners and the schools as a single body? Or is this a play? And this is what I really would love to know. If I were a fly on the wall, I'd really love to know. Are they trying to serve Charlie Baker, a Republican governor from a blue state who's trying to hold on to the checks that the NCAA continues to get, which I believe will end if no changes are made in 2032. The only thing that they do right is the NCAA basketball tournament. And frankly, lately, all they've done is undermine the cash cow, with the portal opening where it is and all that. I know some people say, well, these kids have to get their lives together. There's 364 Division I basketball teams, but only 68 of them get into the tournament. Well, the bottom line is this is not in the best interest of the sport, regardless. And those that are in charge, that are looking out for the future plans of college athletics, need to be those that know what the hell's going on. The presidents don't, and Charlie Baker serves the presidents. He doesn't serve those conferences. He serves at the feet of the presidents of these schools, who many times either don't get it or are absolutely working to undermine its very existence. And that's why I think the break needs to take place.
So to put a button on this, what percentage chance would you say that Nico Iamaleava does not suit up for Tennessee this fall?
I'd say it's probably 50-50.
Really?
Wow.
See,
I'd say it's probably 50-50 because at least, again, we're talking right now.
Yeah.
We're talking in the moment, okay? He can threaten all he wants, right? He can threaten all he wants right now. We still have a lot of time. But do I think it'll happen? No. But the threat of it happening, David, is the concern here. And it has gotten laughable. Look at the kid from Michigan State who was hugging Tom Izzo and telling him how much he loved him, Alman, and the next day he puts his name in the portal.
Yeah.
I mean, they've become actors. These guys, these players now, with the help of their quote-unquote advisors, a.k.a. agents, they've become thespians, okay? These guys know how to act, okay? They know how to play both ends of it. There are a lot of things about this generation that we can poke holes at, about toughness or lack of toughness, but what they do know how to do is manipulate. They're really good at manipulation.
Thespian, is that when you see in the future?
See, I thought that's, I thought was like when you like, I thought a thespian was when you like girls and guys.
I think that's
I think that may be something different.
Hey, I was ahead of my time, fellas. In 1972, in my yearbook, I was both a jock, and in the jock side of the yearbook, and I was also in the National Thespian Society.
Yeah, got all the films. Timmy B just hedged his bets with the girls. I do, before we move off this though, there's a couple things like contextually that I want to point out, because this is the perfect example of the people who are like, oh no, college sports is losing its essence and turning into the professional. This is like one of the biggest gateways and one of the biggest fears that we've had. So I want to put some context here, because Nico's father has come out and said no, because the report was that Nico was threatening basically to enter the transfer portal or not play for Tennessee if he didn't get certain financial or NIL demands met. Now, that was reported from a buddy of ours, Pete Nakos at On3, who we got a lot of respect for, and who, I think does a really good job. But then his father came out and said, none of this is true. I talked to Pete because the claim from Pete Nakos was that a source within Tennessee's coaching staff or support staff had told him this. Nico's father comes out and says that is not true. But to me, it goes to the broader point of what David was saying. And when people are like, oh, well, coaches can go wherever they want, whenever they want. That's not true, really. They are held contractually. There are clauses in that. There are buyouts. There are things that are obstacles in the way of you just saying, screw it. Pop Isaacs, for example, commits to Ole Miss from Creighton, says, I'm going to Ole Miss. Then now just flipped it, and he's going to Houston, I believe. So none of the contracts, and you've had guys that have signed deals, I'm trying to think of the player's name, that had signed a deal with his university to come back and then said, you know what, even though I signed that, I'm still going to go somewhere else, and there's no penalty for it. We're not against NIL as a group. We get paid for our name, image, and likeness. My thing is, at the end of the day, can we just have contracts that have consequences? Because that does two things. I hope you're right. Structurally, it helps. And two, it's a great lesson for young people.
But isn't there already one? Like, I thought
apparently
Tennessee
not.
And Nico already had a contract for his $8 million NIL package for 3 seasons. Where's that?
That's what I'm saying.
Where
It's
can I look
null
that
and
up?
void,
The way that I can look up Aaron Rodgers' contract.
It's apparently it holds no water. Apparently it holds no water. Yeah. That's the biggest problem. Because if you tell me, okay, like David, you signed an $8 million deal to play quarterback at Michigan or whatever. Like, if you opt out of this deal, there is a clause in there that says you have to pay this money back or you have to sit out a certain amount of time. But there are no breakers for these players right now. So it is not like the coaches. It's nothing like the coaches. So that's my biggest qualm with it. And that's kind of the situation with Nico in Tennessee.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But this is sort of, again, the perplexing problem that I have with how we handle all these types of stories. And that is when they begin to dominate everything here and everything, and you have to discuss it because it's a story that's out there. You have to go down that route. What we're doing in so many ways is counter to what every other major sport that draws audiences that are incredible and are the closest audiences that we have to the sacred cow that is the NFL. And that is, a PR problem on top of a PR problem that continually college football does to itself, college athletics does to itself. All these things can be taken care of if we just have the people that count, the ones that are really in the position to make a difference, okay? And that's why I come back to putting it on the commissioners of the main conferences. And really, if I say the 4 conferences, the other 6 really matter too, and they'll fall in line. Their very existence depends on, the 4 understanding that they need them. They need them to fill out a schedule. They need to make sure that the college experience is great at other places too. But we're not going to get there until we have, and I think this is why you see these guys in D.C. this week, as soon as the Final Four was over. Yeah. Because they know they're from Congress. And I think that, there's a lot more that's more important than this right now for Mr. Speaker of my hometown in Shreveport-Bossier, Mike Johnson, to deal with, and Thune in the Senate. But it's got to get to a point where we do something, okay? Because those guardrails cannot be established unless there are some rules that are in place that everybody has to adhere to, not just state by state by state by state. Some things can go back to the states, okay? I'm okay with that. But when it comes to college athletics, when we're talking about the number of Division I teams in college football and that, which is about a third that of college basketball, we need to have some across the board guardrails, and we're not going to get there without everybody that matters working together. And I do think that they're trying. That's why I've been, a proponent of what Sankey and Petitti are doing, even though a lot of people, the bleeding heart liberals especially, want to go after them, because they say it's all about them taking care of their constituency. I know they've earned that moniker in many cases, okay? And I've lampooned them, as you know, many times when I felt that way. But this time I think what they're doing is for the greater good.
Well, Timmy B, look, I love all this football talk, but I don't know if you know, but there's a pretty good big golf tournament going down this weekend. I mean, fathers and sons, pimentos and cheese. It's going down in Augusta. The Masters, Timmy, love the jacket. What's been your thoughts so far? Biggest surprise, maybe biggest letdown? Get me inside of the brain of Timmy B when it comes to the Masters.
Well, Rory at 15 was the disappointment yesterday. I mean, and I picked 17.
him. Damn.
I think a lot of people, 17 doesn't happen if 15 doesn't. I mean, if he...
Then that's not a good sign for the rest of the week then, Tim, because I took him too.
It's not a good sign. No, it's not a good sign. It's in his head. And I think when you're talking about the career Grand Slam and how many times he's tried to pull it off and hasn't. And, when you shoot a 40 on the back nine and you got control of the tournament in his first ever opportunity at Augusta, that's one that, it's interesting. Tiger shot a 40 in 97 on the opening 9, a 40, and managed to get through and have a really good round and then go on and win the tournament. in historic fashion. Okay, the win of the ages, as Jim Nantz said. But look at what happened with Rory after the 11 on the back nine. When he goes for 40 on the back nine on the final day, not the first day, the final day, and he's got what was it? I think a 4 or 5 shot lead at the time. So, other than maybe Greg Norman's collapse, that collapse is the most well-known one in the modern era at Augusta National, and that's just in his head. You know, Jack Nicklaus talked to him, went over shot by shot, he said, and you know, that's a shot what he tried to pull off at 15 yesterday that on any other golf course, major championship golf course, you might be able to get away with, but not on that hole, and not when it's downhill at Augusta National. And because that water is there, and the creek will get you every time. If you recall, Tiger once putted one from about that position off into Race Creek. So it can happen with a flat stick too. But he's got so many shots. Okay, he's got all the shots. And sometimes when you have that many, you got too much to choose from in your head. Yeah. You know, we talk about sometimes the gremlins or the snakes.
Must be nice.
Yeah, it must be nice to have all those shots. But that's the problem here. What happened with Justin Rose, by the way, yesterday, I don't know that he can carry this through for 4 days because his putter can sometimes get a little balky under pressure. But he is a major champion. His game is made for Augusta National, and he's gotten himself in a pretty good position here. If he can just shoot par or better golf today, have a good day on Saturday, Justin would be a very popular winner. If in fact, at 44, he'd be the oldest. He'd be the oldest to win it for the first time. First time winner at the Masters. He'd be the oldest since Mark O'Meara did it in '98 at age 41. So, you know, keep an eye on that moving forward. But those other guys that are up there, Alberg and so many others, they're capable of pulling this off. I mean, it's still up for grabs, but I felt for Rory yesterday. I really did, because I think we all embraced him during the whole Live versus PGA Tour thing, which, you know, they put him under the gun to be like the leader of that group. And I think it adversely affected him. But the way he had been playing this year with those two, you know, I mean, Sawgrass is like the 5th major to me. And for him to have won that, plus another tournament going in, I really felt he had the, and I hope I'm wrong. I hope that he can bounce back. But because he's got the best swing, the best shot formation. He gets the ball high. Normally it holds those greens better than most, but after what happened yesterday, it's going to be really tough.
My last comment is just, if the powers that be in college athletics ran their sport the way the Masters is run, I think it would be in a much better place. That's all I'll say.
Fathers and sons.
That's all I'll say.
And the sandwiches would be so much better.
Yeah, it'd be better and cheaper. And
yeah.
God bless this tournament.
Definitely.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And before I let you go, can I give a quick shout out?
Go ahead.
I want to give a quick shout out to a young man that I've known for a long time. He was, speaking of Alabama, first time I met him was down in Mobile. And he was working as a local sports talk guy on the Mobile station down there. He's done a great job on the SEC network and with golf on Westwood One now, but with Sirius XM. Taylor Zarzar just got the Titans job in Nashville, and I've known Taylor for a long time, and I'm happy for him to be the voice of the Titans. That's Mike Keith did a hell of a job, and now he's gone to Tennessee to take the job that he dreamed of having, which was John Ward's job. And that opened the door for Taylor. So I wish him nothing but the best.
Yeah. Well, maybe you can talk him into drafting Cam Ward #1, even though they shouldn't have to be talked into it, at least in my opinion. We're going to get into our draft.
I thought you wanted to trade that.
I said, no, don't put words in my mouth.
Okay.
We're gonna be covering the draft, especially coming in the next couple of weeks. Timmy B, thanks so much, the Hall of Famer. It's great to talk to you again, brother. And we'll get the cycle going here soon, because we'll blink twice and kickoff will be here, thank God.
Indeed. It'll be here before you know it. Take care, fellas. Great being with you.
Appreciate it, Tim.
And thank you guys for joining us today on Crain and Company. Again, got some big things in the works for y'all, so make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, get ready for even more great content. We work on my talking ability here. Appreciate it. And just like the chances of me not watching the Masters this weekend, glued to the TV, we're gone.